right, welcome to the Logosphere. This is Chris Stites, here as always with J.D. Roof.
Hello, good evening.
And a couple days ago, J.D. Put his dog to sleep. His dog of 15 years.
14.
And it was a highly anticipated event, as it often is for someone who has a pet that they love. Knowing that we're going to outlive them is sort of a blessing and a curse. One day it's going to come, and here we are. And how has it been? What happened? What was the day like?
Yeah, it was really emotionally taxing, let's say the least. And it got, there's a saying in spiritual circles and sobriety about what is it? God is just dog spelled backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that pup when I was 4.5 years sober. And it's funny because I got her in the middle of a breakup. And so the girl left. It was you were both young and crazy. No, I wouldn't blame anybody for the breakup of the relationship, but we wanted to get a dog together. That was the dog we selected. Together.
Just prior to breaking up.
Just literally like weeks before we broke up.
And probably not in an amicable way.
No, in a crazy way. And Did you
want to keep the dog?
No. She already had a dog. And it was probably better that way, but I tried to call the breeder.
Will you take her back?
And they said, we can, but there's like a restocking fee, basically. We're going to keep like $1,000 because it was a really nice breeder. And so I was stuck with this dog. I didn't want her. I wanted her, but I didn't want her. And I had to take her to work with me, and my job wasn't too keen on that. It was a slippery slope. Like, if I can bring my dog, then all the other workers should be able to bring their dog. And so the first couple months I had to bring her, and I had to set up this whole thing. And I had this like little white puppy. Maybe we'll flash a picture in the video or something so people can see what she looked like, because she was just a magical creature. That's how our relationship started, through kind of chaos in a weird way. And I didn't want her, and I was deeply frustrated. And the one thing that dog taught me was patience. All the attributes of God, right? Like patience, love, tolerance, companionship, unconditional love, responsibility. And going through a real tough breakup, that it almost helped keep me sober, because drinking and using drugs when you're a drug addict and alcoholic is a coping thing. We and I'm speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking for you a little bit. Like, we can't cope with reality, so we numb the feelings, or we ingest alcohol and drugs to feel different, right? Is a simple way of putting it. And I just couldn't, because I was responsible for this fucking little fur ball. And so she got cancer about like a year ago, and it was under her tail, so I didn't catch it in time. And it went all over her body, and it slowed her down, slowed her eating down, slowed everything down. But she still just took it. She never whimpered. I think that's the thing that kills me the most. She was such a tough dog. And I, finally enough was enough. It was just enough was enough. And I had this in-home euthanasia company come to my house on Wednesday this week. And the lady was just amazing. She, when those people come, it's not the first animal I've ever lost, right? They come over, And, you know, you don't want that like hippy dippy one that's like, you know, death is just an experience. And, oh, I'm so sorry for you. Like, she was very grounded and like very competent. And that helped a lot. And I just held her in my lap on the floor. And the interesting thing is, you know, our past podcasts, we talk about, you know, barbiturates. That's what it is. It's an overdose of barbiturates. So they give them a little morphine, little cocktail, kind of get them in a twilight, put an IV in after they're asleep. And you take some peanut butter or chocolate or something that they'll go crazy over. And I put it on a wooden spoon and I put it in front of her mouth, and she like was like, "Oh, this is amazing," you know? And she's just sitting in my lap.
That's how they take the barbiturates?
No, they shoot it up. It's like a trick. Like you put the chocolate or the whatever on a spoon, and you let them kind of start going, "Oh, this is nice," while they're laying there with you. And then they hit them in the back of the neck, you know, with a shot.
So what does
morphine.
The peanut butter do?
The peanut butter just distracts them. They just they don't know, like, hey, here's this foreign person sticking needles in me. And she went right to sleep. And she was asleep, and then they give her the overdose of barbiturates, and it's a slow, giant needle that they just slowly inject into her, and it basically just slows her heart down over like a 5 to 10 minute period, and then it just stops. So no convulsions, no bowel syndromes, nothing. She just went out in peace.
Just slowly stop breathing?
Yeah. And right in my arms. I mean, you saw the picture. I sent you one of the pictures, and it's just, it's such a gnarly thing to go through. Like, you'd think like losing a human would be worse, but man, or like, you know, it's just a dog, right? A lot of people think that it's just a fucking dog or cat or whatever, and it's not, man. What
do you think it is about dogs? You said dog is God spelled backwards. You talked about being in early recovery and the effect that she had on that. And on one hand, because of the responsibility you had, but in another way, animals are therapeutic.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a kind of a cliche. You could watch a movie and there could be people getting mowed down left and right, but kill a dog in a movie and it's like,
yeah,
how dare you?
It's funny you bring that up, because remember Halloween, John Carpenter, that was like, he crossed the immortal sin of movie cinema. You know, Michael Myers is out, I think, going around a laundry room in the scene, and that shepherd comes up and you see him like holding the shepherd and kill it. Basically, it doesn't show the whole thing. And I guarantee you John Carpenter probably wanted to show the whole thing, but he was probably advised not to. But, you know, that's like a kind of an unholy thing to do. I mean, Old Yeller is, I don't know if you ever watched Old Yeller.
No.
But Old Yeller,
I just know the expression.
It is a fucking tearjerker, you know, you get into it. And, you know, it's funny. Something that came up in me, I was like, I kept telling my mom, my wife, and everybody around that, like, you know, if this was 100 years ago, I would have just done it myself. And I, for some reason, I still kind of think that I probably would be that type of person, you know?
Could you have taken a gun to her out back?
I think I could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I watched the suffering. You know what I mean? You saw she had this crazy cancerous tumor right on her butt, and it was like pushing her rectum over so she could barely poo.
Yeah.
And it was just nasty. It looked like it was something from like like when the gremlin is like, you know, growing because it goes in water. It got to a point. I mean, it was as big as like a small volleyball, you know, it was nasty. And her tail was all popped up, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it's like, that's the one thing that I'm surprised that I didn't have any regrets. Like, did I do it too early? Did I do it too late? Because that's a whole thing. And we talked about that in that short. Yeah. Right. Like what is it harder to know that this, you know, creature or human is going to die, you know, like on this date at this time? Yeah, another funny thing is that it was scheduled at noon, but then the doctor texted me and was like, I can come at 10 if you're there. And you know what I said? Absolutely. Please come as soon as possible.
Because you were just sitting there. What are you going to do? You're not going to just like enjoy your Wheaties and read the newspaper while you're waiting for that to happen.
Right. But it was just interesting how convicted I was to do that. And I think it's that bond of love, you know, like you when you get to know an animal, like you can tell their mannerisms. I mean, you own animals, I own animals, and you can just tell when they're off. You can just tell how they walk, how they move, their their vocalization of stuff. Like they talk to you. You have this like symbiotic, I think is the right word, relationship, right? Like I just knew when she was hungry. I knew when she was sad. I knew when she was hurt. You know, she hid it really well. She was a pretty tough pup, but you can just tell, you know, and it was enough, you know, and it didn't help that the other thing that didn't help is the reason why I picked it. So she was an English cream golden retriever, but the reason why I picked that is because regular golden retrievers, red golden retrievers, they get all white in the face and they look really old. Have you ever seen an old lab or an old golden retriever? They look all, you know, shot out basically. But an English cream is like a forever puppy. Like she looked just as beautiful, you know, minus the stuff, you know, the cancerous stuff on her back and stuff. But her face looked like I had just got her. And that's pretty gnarly. You know, I call her an angel now. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot to that. I think I just learned a lot from her. I think that's what it is. I think I'm still learning stuff because every time I pray in the morning and at night, I see her face. And it's not, you know, the pain is selfish. It's just, I miss her.
What have you learned?
I've just learned how to be a better caregiver, a better man. I learned how to be a lot more patient. Cause I did whoop on that dog when she would do things that I, you know, didn't approve or that I thought she did wrong. Like, you know, when they're puppies, they like shit on the floor or chew this or whatever. And I grabbed her a couple times, you know, mean and, you know, like kind of rough. And,
do you regret that?
No, I don't know. Cause I don't think I ever took it too far, you know, like I don't think I never hurt her, you know, hurt her. But you know, I was direct and she was a well-trained dog. That was the thing. I spent weeks, you know, cause I was broken up. I was a lost fucking pup myself. Like I was a lost pup and she was a lost pup, you know, and I spent all this time and money on training her, like weeks and months. And she was like, I mean, she would like climb up a ladder. Like she would, you know what I mean? She'd pause this, roll over, play dead, all that crap. And everybody that came in contact with her, I mean, you saw her on her tail end, you know, but you could tell how sweet of a dog she was because she didn't move a lot when, you know, the last couple of years. But she just, like, there's like people coming over to my house, my parents' friends, like saying goodbye to her. Like a saint was passing. And I you know, I had people reaching out to me that I haven't talked to in years. You know, hey man, I love that fucking dog. She went on the retreats with all the boys and she just, anywhere she went, she was just a special animal. And I'm not even saying that because she was my animal. It wasn't that. It was, God was doing something with that thing. It wanted it to, because maybe I was still like holding back on being completely open to the world, right? Open to relationships. And that dog helped me open up. Like the reason why I have this house is because of Eva. You want to hear the story? I'll make it quick, but we had this little condo. Shree and I had this little condo, little yard, and we have these two large dogs. And, you know, we take them on walks every day. But there's this little tiny little dog, this little mean kind of, I can't remember. His name was Pirate, but he was, I don't know what breed he was, but always coming on the other side of the fence. Right. So eventually Eva got out and bit him and punctured his, like I thought the dog, his name was Pirate, and his owner, Jody, was amazing. But she actually said like, yeah, he deserved it. But anyways, like it was a hospital visit. I was like freaking out. And from that whole incident is the only time Eva ever did something like that in her life. We were like, you know what? We need a bigger yard. We need, you know what I mean? We need a piece of property that's nice. We got to find something that's cheap that we can afford. And, you know, we need to get out of this condo life. And it was all because of that shit. That was the catalyst that brought me here. And it's a weird trip. You know,
Was anyone else there
when
you put her down?
Yeah, my mom was there. She loved that dog. And she's not even like that much of a dog person, right? The dogs I grew up with had to stay outside, like literally, like farm dogs. They were not allowed in the house. And my mom allowed Eva in her house and everywhere. And, you know, like she rolled people. Like, I don't know. She did something. And so she was there and Shireen was there.
Where was Sarah?
Sarah was at school. There's a part of me that thinks she should have been there though. And I think when we do have to put once that comes for another animal, she'll be there.
Why do you think she maybe should have been there? To have that experience of.
Yeah, we had a similar experience. It was much lesser, but we were both crying. You know, we have a little chicken farm, and you know, we had to put down a chicken. We tried to take it to the vet to save it, but it got attacked by this crazy dog, this neighbor's dog, and Sarah. And you know, in an emergency, we all went to the vet. The other chickens were dead, so they couldn't be saved, and we tried. And she saw the lethal injection and everything at the vet. And, you know, it was tragic and everything like that. But, like think about years ago, right? What do kids see? What do farmers see every day? I mean, that's what you see, you know? And now I'm watching All Creatures Great and Small. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a TV show, but
No.
It's about farm life in a veterinarian clinic. And it's a really good book, and it's a book series. And like all these kids, I mean, these kids are like 5, 6 years old, and they're, you know.
When my father was dying, I was taking a psychology course, which was, I think it was called Research Methods. And really the whole point of the course was to construct a study and to conduct a survey and to do statistical analysis on it, and to hopefully support or not support a conclusion or a hypothesis. And at the time, I decided to explore whether or not there was a connection between exposure to death and what's referred to as death anxiety. So 2 variables, and depending on whether someone had more or less exposure to death, what was their self-reported level of death anxiety. And I could imagine it going 2 ways. One is you're exposed to it more, and so you're not so afraid of your own death because you have had experience with it, and it's not so much of a boogeyman. And the other one would be that you are more aware of your own mortality because you have seen it happen, and a higher level of exposure would actually create more anxiety. Now, based on my study, I found out nothing except for the fact that creating studies is extremely difficult to do.
Right.
You know, it's one thing to study very concrete variables, but things like this, I wasn't able to, and most people in the class were unable to come up with any results that mattered. But that being said, it was, you know, I remember as I was proposing the topic to my professor, he was not encouraging me to do that. He thought that based on what I was currently going through, that was probably a terrible topic to pick. But I did nonetheless. You know. But you think in society, it's like you said 100 years ago or whatever. In the farmhouse, you'd see an animal get slaughtered, and then it would be in the dinner table, and grandma would just die in the living room, and
Right. And it's not like the pig or the animal that was slaughtered was like not loved by the kid. You know what I mean? Like they were out
saw
there.
that pig every
Yeah.
day.
They had a name for it.
Yeah.
And, and they were grateful for it, and interesting thing that happens and this kind of goes into your little study hypothesis. You see these kind of older people that have had a dog and have gone through this experience that I'm going through, with Eva, being put down. And they say, "Oh, I'm never gonna get another animal." You always have the parents that are like, "Yeah, we had the childhood dog, and never again, right? I never want to go through that, right?" And you'd mentioned earlier, it's like a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm learning out of this is it's more of a blessing than a curse, right? Because it shows you the true life cycle, and I'll definitely get more dogs, it's not going to be like, there's a dog out there that needs to get rescued or needs some love. Right. And I think that attitude is a denial. It's a denial of death.
I also remember when my father died, there was this man that somehow came into our lives. I can't remember his name, but he had worked in hospice, and he also was an experienced Buddhist of some sort. I think his name was Carlisle, and he just showed up. It was kind of like a recovery thing where he saw some people that, he had experienced in a way that could be helpful to them. When my dad died, he came over and he helped us kind of prepare his body. We kept my dad for 24 hours.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that, like, you weren't supposed to.
We weren't supposed to.
No.
Hospice in the city or whatever. He said, they don't. The truth is you don't have to send the body straight to the morgue. Mm-hmm. And so we took that liberty, but they weren't terribly comfortable with it. But he came over and we cleaned my dad's body, did a few things.
Yeah.
And but one thing that he shared with me, when it comes to more traditional societies, you think of a small village or something like that in Africa or what have you, is that if the village is helped by or is more healthy when there's a regular occurrence of death in the village, that it serves a purpose for the community. And maybe in our own lives, it's for us to shoulder grief and the things that brings up serves a good purpose as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think probably in the West more so, right? There is more of a denial. Like there's a more of sweep it under the rug. We don't want to know about it. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff that I got from family and friends was, yeah, Sarah should be at school.
Yeah,
and she probably shouldn't have been, And I don't regret it. It's nothing like that. I'm not mad about it, but there is, it's like a taboo, right? It's like a slight thing. That we've walked away from. I've seen, there's that one documentary where they bomb the dead grandmother and they stay there. I think it's in the Philippines. They have this death tradition where they just stay there, in the living room for a year. And then they go bury her or whatever, I think you can go a little too crazy with that shit, but I also embracing death and seeing it for what it is, and really, really feeling it. It is liberating. Just in the last couple of days, I'm already starting to kind of, the first 2 days, I hysterically crying like a little bitch, and I still I talk about it with, me and you, we waited a couple days, because I couldn't even talk about it. I would just be sniveling and and now I can, and it's not,
Man, we really should have done it right there.
I know, but yeah, I wouldn't have made sense.
10:30, we should have fired the cameras up. That would have been really respectful.
I know, and that, yeah, and that's like shitting on the dead too, kind of in a weird way, right?
Just exploited for maybe a couple followers.
Yeah, but that's not the point of this trip, you know. Like the point of this was, it's weird to see it as like a beautiful thing. That's I don't understand why there's something telling me that it's like this beautiful process, because I miss my best friend, you know. I miss her, like, and that's the hardest thing I think with an animal loss.
What do you miss about her?
Just, you know, like I even see her, you know, like I'll think I'll see her, you know, around the corner laying on a bed where she normally would.
Accustomed to it.
Yeah, it's a habit, right? I come around the corner.
What did she do for you in the last couple of years after she's slowed down and just having her around?
Yeah, just having her around, you know, making all her noises, you know, just like getting by. And I mean, but you know, that dog did everything. She went whitewater rafting. She went fucking snowmobiling. I mean, like I did everything with that pup, you know, like everything. And then the sad thing was that slowly but surely I just couldn't do that stuff, because she just like wouldn't walk anymore. I'd take her out the cul-de-sac and she's like, yeah, I don't want to go for a walk.
She didn't want to go for a walk?
Yeah. Because the cancer was in her joints and shit. And like she had all these, I mean, you saw her. She was like lumpalicious.
Could you have caught it earlier?
I think I could have caught the one on her butt earlier if I would have noticed it, if it wasn't under the tail. But the thing is, though, is that came about when she was 13. So it was like a year ago. So the crazy thing about like a cancer that's that advanced is that they would have had to cut that out. The vet was like, yeah, the surgery might kill her. And then her rectum could get like, could explode. Like, you know what I mean? The stitches, the sutures might not hold. And then you got a real disaster on your hand. And it's like, you know what? And you know what I did for the last year? I just got her like Ziwi Peaks, the best food, the most expensive shit, non-processed. And I think that kind of helped her, you know? And the crazy thing is another thing that's, I think, interesting about death is with animals and people, they perk up.
When they're getting closer to death?
Like she perked up like big time.
The
day of and the day before.
Did that give you pause? No, it didn't.
I wanted to. There was a part of me, and even Shireen kind of got that in her head too. Like, well, why don't we just put it off another couple weeks, right? And for some reason, it was like, no, this is it's nice, right?
Are there any laws around that? Can you put your dog down? Could that woman have come over when Eva was 6 months old and romping around?
Could you convince a woman to do that?
Yeah.
Or, you know, a person to do that?
Yeah.
I think that's more of why that doesn't happen, you know? I mean, there's sick people out there for sure, like sick, sadistic, you know, abusers of animals, right? And you would have to be in that camp, I would think.
The question we asked on our little short was, how come it's okay to kill your dog and not your dad?
Well, what do you think about that?
It's an interesting one.
You've been real close, like way even closer to that. I mean, you're talking about your dad's death, like that's gnarly. Would you, like, let's say here's a scenario, and maybe we'll end on this, right, or on this thought. Let's say when your dad was diagnosed and it was getting real bad, right? Like it's like, oh man, like you could barely get around town, right? Because I know you went through that for a long time with him. Let's just say he turned to you one of those days and was like, you know what, son? I'm done. Yeah. Call the dude. Let's go. What do you think your answer would be?
My gut instinct is it would be okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Eva did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I just felt like I went on a trip last week, and it just felt like you could just feel it. It was like unspoken. It was like, yeah, I'm good here. Yeah. I don't need to keep going, you know? And I don't really have problems with euthanasia. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you don't want to like put out like a healthy person. I'm sure there's got to be a lot of parameters and stuff like that, right? To be, you know, you don't want to be killing healthy people. you know. But what about mental illness? Illness. I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
But even unhealthy people, it's just interesting that we find it to be the merciful,
Yeah.
loving thing to do to an animal, but not to a person. What's the difference? Some people obviously.
Is it a higher value? What do you think? Humans are. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Humans are a higher value in society.
Yeah.
Your dad's a higher value to society, even if he is suffering.
2 weeks before he dies, it's just a foregone conclusion. No one's no one's holding out any hope that this is going to turn around.
Right.
Why just let it go to the very last breath?
Yeah. It seems if we have the technology to do it peacefully and humanely, you know.
For me, I almost feel like I'd want to go to the bitter end. Just for like almost in a spiritual sense, you know, like I want
just
that last trip, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want it just to be lights out if I could avoid it. Like I want the death rattle. I want to, you know, I want the.
You want to go out punk rock.
I want the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I want the DMT to flood into my brain, and I want to,
just trip,
just
go to a different dimension.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
and
kind
I
of
wouldn't want anyone to deprive me of that.
Right.
And maybe I wouldn't want to deprive my dad of that unless he had asked me.
But if he asked you,
if he asked me, yeah,
you'd be.
Yeah.
Would you give him the shot? Would you have given him the shot?
Oof, well, probably not, just because of the legal implications.
But would you pay, like, let's say there was no legal implications.
Then,
let's just say it was lifted like
there's something about that. It's like the same reason you probably in a different time like the idea of at least of you, you know, bringing, you know, Eva back behind the barn and putting her out.
Right.
You know, the idea of killing your own.
Yeah.
Shouldering that burden. There's something honorable about that, isn't there?
There's gotta be. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like I'm taking full responsibility from the birth of you to the death. If you're going to only last within my lifespan and I'm going to keep going on for 40 more years, right? Or whatever. This is my burden. This is my baggage to carry, and I carry it with pride.
And I think we know if we try to offload that burden, it'll come back to bite us.
Yeah, there'll be regret.
Yeah, it'll affect our self-esteem or our integrity.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of even the Game of Thrones. Early on, Ned Stark is portrayed as being this honorable king, and I can't remember the details, but there was.
Oh no, the guy. He's a defect from the black wall, the wall, and he's like, if you're, what's the saying? If you're the Lord and you're going to enforce the law, you have to do it yourself. Like he cuts the guy's head off. That's right. I know what
I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And there was something about that. That exemplifies that kind of ethic that we're talking about, which is the fact that he, as the king, was willing to take that burden upon himself. To, that law is one of if you run away from duty, it's the severest penalty.
Right. And he made his son watch.
Yeah.
Right. Who became the three-eyed raven eventually, right?
Yeah.
And he
just like part of you would have maybe wished you had Sarah there.
Yeah. So that honor is still in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like there's that.
I watched after my mom died, my dad got really close to our dog. We had a dog, Shelby, that was around when the whole family was still together. And then my mom got sick. My sister and I grew up and moved away. But then my dad and the dog, just... Yeah. My dad went on we started going on these insane walks. He would walk like Forrest Gump or something, just like walk around with this dog and go to Lake Tahoe. And it was, they were just together all the time. And in a similar way, probably to the way that your dog held a special place in your heart because of when you got it in relationship to the ending of that relationship.
Right.
But you imagine the mother of your children, married for how many years, dies tragically.
That's like another level
and then
deeper.
you're on a pilgrimage, right? Of like his own dark night of the soul with this dog. And then that dog, I remember watching him as he started to have to face the question of, is it time now or not? When she couldn't get up to go to the bathroom anymore, when he couldn't take her for walks, when she stopped eating. And he eventually realized, for him, it just came out of nowhere. He would say for a while, they say you'll know when it's time. And he didn't know. And then all of a sudden he did.
Yeah.
And he came out, he drove, he was in downtown LA. I was up here, and we met at a clinic closer to me at the time. And I have pictures, you know, I just saw him down on the floor.
Yeah.
And I remember what he said. He said, "I'm so sorry, sweetie."
Yeah.
And he just held her, and but it's such a thing.
It is. It's a gnarly experience. And all I was saying was, thank you for your life.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for touching me. Thank you for teaching me. I kept saying that over and over and over again.
Yeah. My dad said the same thing when my mom died that he said when Shelby, our dog, died. I was there. We were each holding one of my mom's hands as she slowly stopped breathing.
Damn.
And that's what he said to her. "I'm so sorry, sweetie."
Yeah. So what's the moral of our story? Get pets.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a spiritual trip. It really is. I recommend it highly, you know. I guess not everybody can be a pet owner though, right? Because some people just don't have the bandwidth to handle it, I guess.
Do you put cats down?
You do.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends, right? Obviously. But if they're ready to go, it's the same process. Same exact process. And sir, it is coming to a theater for you.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
You know?
Cats live a little bit longer.
A little bit longer.
Our oldest cat is 9 now, and it's the one that Claire is
right.
Like, that's going to be...
It's going to be gnarly. It's going to rock your world. And we'll have to do another show about it probably.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference between cats and dogs. Like dogs tend to be more dependent. So they're more like a child, like a domestic child. Cats are, what I've noticed in the 2 years that I've owned cats, they're a little bit more wild, a little bit more resilient, a little bit more, you know, they don't necessarily need you all the time. A dog is different, right? Like depending on the breed, but for the most part, like they want to be with you no matter what.
There's something about that unconditional love. I don't know if dogs are capable of love in the way that we think about it. Or maybe more capable of it in some ways.
I think they're more because
they're just not prone to having beef. They're not really capable of judgment.
They're holding resentment.
Probably part of it is just, you know, humans, we have a lot going on in our heads, and we're very social, and we're thinking about stuff, and we're, you know, it's like we're blocked in that way because there's so much complexity to what goes on in our heads. But like a dog, there's something about the way that you could probably have roughed up Eva when she was behaving badly.
Yeah.
And she would still love you. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't hold it.
Well, there's that
you.
joke, like, you know, like lock your wife in the garage for 12 hours and come home, and then lock your dog in the garage for 12 hours and come home. And who's going to love you more? Yeah.
The dog would be so stoked to see you.
So stoked. Shit and piss all over the floor. Yeah. But hey, what's up, bud? Let's go.
Because the dog just can't create the story of why'd you lock me in the garage.
Right. But the funny thing is, I feel like, you know, I just took Eva or Penny and Grizz to the vet, like to get their, you know, shots and everything. And like Penny didn't come around for like a day. She's like, fuck you, buddy.
Afterwards.
Yeah. Cats are.
But I don't know. That doesn't mean that she was holding a grudge.
No, I know.
She was traumatized.
Yeah. But it's like this weird, I think they have, you know, like the thing with cats is that they talk to us. They go meow, meow, meow. They don't do that out in nature.
No, they don't.
Right?
They say cats don't meow to each other.
No. And so that's a sign of intelligence that's different than a dog. There's some different things. They're more of a predator, but you know, dogs are predators too, but they're more like conniving, you know, in a way, you know, not in a bad way. I mean, thank God I have my cats now. They're helping me get through this motherfucker right now. You know what I mean? Because if I didn't have any other animals.
How do you feel about Zoe?
Zoe's going to be next for sure, but she's
not as important.
No, she is. She's just different. She's a different breed. She's a little bit more riddled with anxiety and stuff. You know, she's Zoe's the type of dog that like she'd just like go out to the tree and just die. Like she doesn't want to be like messed with too much. She's more of like a cattle dog. I don't know. It's a different type of breed, you know. So,
but doesn't hold the same significance for you.
No, Zoe's grown on me over the years. You know, she was a crazy, you know, Mexican street dog with cigarette burns, broken ribs when Shireen got her. And I, you know, and then Shireen and I got together and we introduced
Oh, it's Shireen's dog.
That's Shireen's dog.
That's why.
Yeah. So when that happens, Shireen is going to be.
Yeah, we all there's a different bond when it's your animal.
Right. Like I had Eva 4.5 years before I even knew who Shireen was.
That's our cats.
Right.
You know, for my boy, it's. You know,
yeah,
that's the one that I really dread.
It's gonna hit. You know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think, you know. It's worth. I think it's worth the experience, and the more the better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am grateful to have had her in my life, and you know, it's gonna take me a while to get over her. I mean, I have her tattooed on my fucking leg. I'm one of the, you know, we're like crazy animal people. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess you could classify us as that, right? Like everything's about our animals and our kids, and you know what I mean. It's just, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Till next time.
Till next time. See you.